Well, it looks like Gracie's got everything out. She's got out that homemade chicken broth that we made yesterday, right here. Ooh, yeah, some good stuff. And there's the chicken that we pulled off that rotisserie chicken. That was all the meat we had left. Yep. Yeah, she's got the potatoes, the onion, celery, carrots. Hey, Gracie, what about the peas? Oh, they're frozen in the freezer? And you wanted to leave them in there till right towards the end? Good thinking, Gracie. It looks like she's got some salt and pepper going here. She's got some fine paprika, some parsley flakes, ground nutmeg to give it a little bit of warmth, and the magic for any chicken dish, poultry seasoning, and of course, some whole kernel sweet corn. So it looks like she's got everything right here to make up one last meal from that little old rotisserie chicken that we bought for $5.97. It was such a deal. Yeah, Gracie did a fine job getting everything laid out here. I got to remember those frozen peas to add them right at the end. I'm sure she'll remind me, tug on my pants when it's time to put them in. Oh, well, hey there, friends and family. So good to see you again. Yeah, I see you snuck by the kitty crew again, but you're always welcome to the little old country kitchen. And as you can see from what we have on the counter that Gracie all laid out, we're going to be cooking up something up, and it's going to be yummo. Yeah, and we're going to make that one last meal from that rotisserie chicken that was nothing but skin and bones, as you did see on the last episode of Mr. Tom's Neighborhood. So hey, drag up a chair, grab your favorite snack and cold drink, and let's get to cooking and show you how I stretch that chicken out right here in Mr. Tom's Neighborhood. Well, we've got our homemade broth back in the pot. Starting to heat up, we do. And now all we got to do is we're going to add our veg in. That's the first thing we're going to do. And what we've got here is those 2 potatoes, diced up small, along with 2 carrots, celery, and a half of white onion. All diced up small. Think about it. Like it's going to be in a chicken pot pie. Because what we're making, as you might have seen on the title, is chicken pot pie stew with not dumplings, but bumplins. Let me get a spoon, stir that on up. So we'll get this little wood spoon, stir all our veg in. Just like that. Ain't hard. Like I say, that was a small dice right there. And we'll just cover it back up. We're going to turn that up to about a 4. I guess you would say that's a medium low. And we're going to let it start to cooking for about 10 to 15 to 20 minutes before we add in our chicken and start spicing it up. So y'all watch that and don't let it boil over, okay? So we've had that broth and veg, you know, the carrots, the celery, the onion, the potatoes, and all that simmering away. Now it's time to add in the corn. We're going to be using Libby's whole kernel sweet corn right here out of the can. And we're just going to put about a half can right on in there to spruce it up. Give it a little bit of sweetness, we are. That should be enough. Yeah, can't have too much corn. Right there. And if you'll remember, I was going to use frozen peas. Well, Gracie couldn't find them in the freezer, and I thought she just wasn't looking hard enough, so I went looking. And I'll be darned, she was right. We couldn't find the frozen peas. So we had to punt, and we're going to be using Libby's sweet peas right out of the can, and about a half a can of them too. It'll be okay. There we go. Got our peas and our corn in. Give it a nice stir. Ooh, that's starting to look like chicken pot pie stew. Oh, well, we need to put in the chicken too. Let's grab it out of the refrigerator. So all I've done is chopped up that chicken. We got it right here in this little bowl, and we're just going to add it on in. It ain't a lot. I'd say a little more than a cup, but it'll do. With all those veggies, that fine broth. Woo! Now look at that. So colorful. And we're going to let that simmer on while we season it up. Now the first thing we're going to add is some poultry seasoning. Doesn't take a lot. Just going to drop in a half a teaspoon of that right there. Then we're going to go in with the paprika. Now you can use some of that smoky paprika if you want to. And for this, just to give it a little bit of color, we're going to drop in 1 teaspoonful. Now for some parsley flakes. About a teaspoonful of them too. And last but not least, a little bit of nutmeg to give it some warmth. We're going to put in a 1/4 teaspoon. That's all. And the broth already had salt and pepper in it. But we're going to just add all that in. Let it start commingling and getting all happy. But there's one last thing to do. And you know, I was talking about those bumplins. Well, we haven't added them yet, but we're about to. We're going to bring up that heat to about medium. Hey, let me show you what we make our bumplins out of. Hold on. Now, my mother wasn't much on baking things from scratch. Every once in a while, she'd make cakes, but they were Duncan Hines or Betty Crocker. And her pies always came from Mrs. Smith. When it came time to do something like dumplings, she'd bring out the canned biscuits. Much like these right here. You know, the little small ones. These happen to be buttermilk biscuits from Food Club. Yep. And she called them bumplins. Now, I'm not sure if that was a take on the fact that they were biscuits. You know, biscuits and bumplins, or the fact that you have to bump them on the counter to break them open. I'll never know. But that's what we use too. And we have them right here. You just take your canned biscuit, chop it up in any size you want to. Get that up to a boil, which is starting to come up now. You just start dropping them in. One at a time. Don't gotta be fancy. But if you want to, you can roll them up and make them look like little bitty balls. I just chop them up, pop them in there. It'll be okay. Give them a little stir so they don't stick together. Just like that. And continue on. Dropping them in. A little more stirring action going on here. Till we get them all in the pan. That was one whole tube. Or can. However you want to say it. And there we go. Now, put back on the lid and bring them up to a simmer for about 15 to 20 minutes until our bumplins are done. We'll set a timer so we'll know when they're done. Y'all watch that. Well, the bumplins are done. It's starting to thicken up nicely. And you can cook it down to whatever thickness you want it to be. But I tasted some of the broth and I think it could use just a touch more pepper. So we'll sprinkle some of that in. Just a touch. And a little more salt. It'll be okay. The only salt and pepper we had in it was what we had flavoring the broth. But you'll know when your dumplings are done because they tend to sink on down into that broth. Look at that. That's looking good. That's good food in the neighborhood. And I think the consistency is just fine. So now we just gotta plate it up and give it a taste test. So what do you think of my chicken pot pie stew? We'll turn that down on low. Get us a bowl. And the only thing left is to give it a test. A taste test, that is. Well, the only thing left to do is give it a taste. Oh, there y'all are. We got us a nice big spoonful of my chicken pot pie stew with dumplings, or bumplins, as Mama called them. Let's put it in an old chomper and see what we got here. Mm. Oh my. That is flavorful. Yes, it is. Woo! If I had a couple of pie crusts, I'd throw it on in there and make some pot pies too. That is really flavorful with just that little bit of chicken. All the veg, you can taste the carrots, the peas, carrots, potatoes, onions, and celery. Just got a slight peppery bite. It's so good. So hey, I hope you enjoyed coming along with me in the little old country kitchen tonight. And it's getting late and I'm starving to death. And watching me cook up a family meal from what we had left from that rotisserie chicken. Just like Mama used to do. Except she never bought rotisserie chickens. She cooked them up from raw, from scratch. But she put something like this together when all she had was the carcass, skin, and bones too. So hey, until the kitty crew, you know them all, and of course Gracie, little princess of the house, my little sous chef. See you on that next episode of Mr. Tom's Neighborhood. Y'all take care. Stay safe out there. May God bless you all. Would you bless those in your lives? You know we love you for all that you do to make our life better too. Goodbye for now. Oh yeah, I am starving. This is good. Oh, later all. Mm.